Hey everybody, it's Rocky here once again. In case you missed my last podcast, I'm going to review what my podcast is about. Essentially, I'm trying to just discuss different type of topics and dive into ways of how to deal with these situations, how to cope, and how to heal. And also trying to advocate for different populations and communities. I'm going to be trying to do this podcast essentially 2 to 4 times a week. My first two will be to, if I feel like the topic wasn't closed out, to do a continuation of it. And my third podcast of the week will be a completely new topic. And my fourth, I'm going to be trying to recite some of my poetry on here and or a monologue, whatever I choose to do for that week. To review a little bit about my last topic, it was essentially about bullying and having suicidal ideations because of it. Um, my first podcast, I dove a little bit more about the aftermath and healing from it and finding therapeutic outlets, new friendships, etc., and finding yourself again after that. But today I wanted to continue with that topic in regards to, for one, the first thing I'm going to talk about is specific ways to deal with bullying. So, if you're in that situation currently, the very first thing I recommend is to stand up for yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. Um, Try to be assertive and direct. Look at the bully in the eye and say, "Stop, that is not funny. That's enough. I'm not dealing with this." If they still don't, stay calm, keep your voice even. Bullies tend to seek people who have a strong reaction, rather if it's negative or positive. So just keep your voice in a calm, neutral tone. Another thing is using humor, deflect with a joke or by laughing it off to show that you're not intimidated. Another method to deal and stand up to bullies is to use the gray rock method. This means being as boring and as uninteresting as a gray rock. Do not react, argue, or show emotion, causing the bully to lose interest. So, acting like you don't even care, ignoring them. Walk away. If the situation doesn't immediately escalate, calmly walk away to show this behavior just isn't worth your time. Now, if that doesn't work, if it's something that is a little bit more serious than that, say you're getting beat up, they're harassing you, what I recommend to do is, very first thing is telling your parent and your teachers. If this doesn't work, try telling your counselor, your school counselor. Try telling the school's security. Make a report at school. I also recommend documenting everything in writing. So the time, the dates, the details of the incident. If all these things don't work, you're going through the motions, it's not working, go up the chain of command with your parent. If your parent doesn't do it first, do it yourself. Talk to the school principal. If it doesn't work, talk to the superintendent. Go above them and go to the school board. If necessary, if it gets to a place where it's out of control, it's beyond bullying, it's become physical, it's become way worse, contact law enforcement. Check your student handbook, which all schools should have one, for specific anti-bullying policies, and file a formal uniform complaint procedure with the school district if the bullying is discriminatory. Also, seek external support. Consult educational advocates, consultants, attorneys, contact state education department resources, or local youth centers for additional resources. Now, as a parent, you also need to prioritize your child's mental health by involving outside counselors or therapists. So, finding ways for them to be able to cope with it outside of the school if even that is not working, and if it goes beyond that to where all of that didn't work, removing your kid from the school into another school, letting them know of these prior incidents from the other school so you can know what their anti-bullying policies are and know if it's a safe school to move your kid to. Now, that is more on how to, as you're currently dealing with it, but now I'm gonna dive in a little bit more into something that I talked about in the last podcast, which is how to cope with the anxiety and the depression of it. So, as I said, speak to your parents about getting you either a counselor or a therapist to deal with it. And if you're older, I mean, this doesn't just happen when you're in school underage. It happens when you're in college. It happens even when you have a job. I know I've had past experience dealing with certain supervisors and coworkers, and a lot of it wasn't working, and I had to go above my supervisor. And more than that, dealing with the aftermath of it, and how to cope with the anxiety and the depression of all that. Well, first of all, I want to talk about how people who deal with anxiety, we tend to make it more and build it up into this like ball of a monster thing, to where we tend to claim this anxiety as ours, that it belongs to us, that it's my anxiety, it's my depression. And that's not necessarily true. You want to realize that it's not yours. You need to let it go and let the universe take care of it and hold on to the weight that you've been carrying. I know this is easier said than done. I'm going to dive into specific things that I do to cope with it. But before I do that, I'm going to read you 2 quotes and hope that you'll be able to digest the rest of the coping methods with these quotes. So the first one is, try to harness your anxiety so that it energizes you rather than paralyzes you. Now, I know that might not make sense right away, but even if you don't make your anxiety yours, that it belongs to you, it's easier said than done. You still have to deal with it. And a lot of people deal with it on the daily. And so instead of, finding it, crippling it, find a way to harness it, to control it, to make it to where it's something that, like the quote says, energizes you. So twisting it into something positive. Again, easier said than done, right? But that's where I'm going to dive into these specific things that I did to help deal with these depression and anxiety. The very first thing is exercising. And that could be anything. It could be, you don't have to go to the gym. You could do it at home. You could do yoga, you could do a number of things that don't necessarily involve weights. You could take a walk, jump rope, anything that involves some sort of activity. Another thing is meditation. If that's something you want to dive into, look up how to do it, praying, if you're religious, or even if you're not religious, if you're more spiritual and you're praying to something more out there than the religious aspect. Breathing exercises. So even when you're currently having a panic attack, something that I found was getting a paper bag. And even if you don't have a paper bag at your disposal, just breathing in and out and just keep doing it. Your body can only physically panic for 20 minutes. So if you can stop it sooner than that, if you practice breathing exercise and learn how to control and take back your body, because you feel like it's attacking you in that moment, and so your mind fights against what your body knows how to do. And if you try to, because we can all control our mind, control your mind and reset your body back in breathing in and out, in and out, you can take control of that panic attack and make it stop. Another thing is, if you feel like you're dealing with it a lot for the week, try to cut out certain things. Fast food, just, like me, I have a problem with drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, and I need to cut that out, because honestly, when I start to drink a lot more water, I notice the changes, not just in my body, but in my mental, that I start to, calm down more, and I don't have that much anxiety that day. Another thing is writing. That is something that I like to do. I like to write poetry, but it doesn't have to be poetry. You could just keep a journal, put in your thoughts of the day, what you did, etc. Just journaling is something that can help as well. As I did mention going to a counselor or a therapist. Another thing, deleting toxic people in your life. Easier said than done, I understand. But that is something that, in removing these certain aspects of your life, it could also help you to reduce your anxiety. People that no longer serve you, that don't serve your mental, just removing them from your life and say, you know what, this isn't working. This is not something that is serving my mental, my purpose, and I think we need to cut off this friendship. I can go into another podcast all about that, and I will. But moving on, surrounding yourself with positivity. Sorry. So apart from people, just everything in your life, anything that doesn't serve you, only like being in positive areas and situations. If you come across a situation and it's negative, you know what? Walk away. Because the longer you stay in that, the more it also increases your anxiety. Another thing is, I know, some people do take things for their anxiety and stuff, and I know it does help some people, but the biggest thing I've learned is, and another quote, I'm not going to be a slave to a pill. A lot of these pills are addictive, and I have dived myself into finding different ways other than pills to deal with it, because it just, you remain addicted to it, and then it doesn't necessarily take it away. It just kind of dulls it down to where you're not dealing with it in the moment, as long as the pill effect lasts, and so that's something that you might want to take into consideration. I'm gonna state a few quotes that have helped me as well, and kind of circle back to everything that I just said. First one being, your pain will not last forever. Eat the fish and spit out the bones. This means you take what you want from something and you leave the rest behind. So everything I said about deleting toxic people, surrounding yourself with positivity, um, only bringing in what serves you and throwing away the rest, erasing it from your life, removing it from your life, um, because it doesn't serve you. It's bones. It's trash. You don't need it. Another quote that I love is develop a vision that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning. And one more. One second. My future starts when I wake up every morning. Every day I find something creative to do with my life. So I wanted to read you guys these quotes because they kind of circle back to everything that I talked about, not just in this podcast, but my first podcast that I did, and finding that thing that makes you want to get up. Circling back to that other quote I said, learning to harness your anxiety and reducing it by finding something that makes you want to wake up again, that makes you want to go on with your day. I also want to talk about like specific more things that I heard from a YouTube channel. This girl talked about very specific things. I believe her name is Kathleen Lights on YouTube. I'll put it in the comments if I'm not right about that. But some specific things that she talked about was making an anxiety reducing drink. Now this entails 6 cups of water, 3 lemons cut in half and squeeze, half a cup of honey, and a drop of lavender oil. I think lavender and chamomile are really good calming tools. The second thing she said was making an easy, pretty meal. So her example was a sourdough bread slice toasted, putting some avocado, half of an avocado, dice up some strawberries, put butter on the toast, then the avocado, then small bits of goat cheese, sprinkle it with olive oil all over, and sprinkle some black wine sea salt and chunky sea salt. I don't quite know what that is, but this is what she had said. But I mean, it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. It can be making your eggs and your bacon into a smiley face, your pancakes, shaping them into a certain pretty thing, anything that helps you start your day with positivity and, makes you smile to get that day started. Another thing she said was reaching out to a friend. I mean, so that's the essential goal, right? Whenever you're dealing with something, don't be afraid to let them know what's going on. If not a friend, like I said, therapist, counselor, anybody in your community of support system, don't be afraid to reach out to them. Another thing she said was taking a drive, listening to encouraging podcasts. Somebody that I specifically recommend, I used to listen to him all the time when I would work out. His name is Eric Thomas. He makes like motivational podcasts, and that instead of music, I would listen to that because it would motivate me to keep going. Another one, he's not a podcast, but he is a YouTube channel, and he's also on Instagram, Facebook. Is Trent Shelton. He's actually the one who motivated me for YouTube channels, but then more so the whole motivation aspect motivated me. The motivation motivated me to do the podcast. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while now, but it I don't know, it helps me to like kind of narrow down what it is that I want it to do, because as I mentioned in my first podcast, my bachelor's is in social work, but I mean, moral of the story is, the system is messed up. You can't always, help everybody, and I felt like the whole advocating thing, motivational speeches, was something that I wanted to dive into. And he is the one who got me to, once I watched his videos, to kind of navigate that. So that's that. And then also, the very last one, I had already mentioned about breathing exercises, but I think I'm going to mention it again. This is the biggest thing you can do with people who are dealing with anxiety, is taking the time to breathe. Not just when you're having, either a panic attack, or you're just dealing with anxiety in the moment, but just in general in life. I mean, we all tend to go so fast from A to Z throughout our day, everything that we need to do, that we forget to stop and just breathe and take that step back to reset, reevaluate. Like I said, even all the tools that you have to try to cope with it, taking a step back to seeing, which is why I mentioned these quotes earlier, and throwing away what no longer serves you. You know what? These coping skills used to help, but they no longer do. Let me throw them away. Let me find new ones. Let me look at my local resources. Like I said, I think that's the biggest thing you can do with anxiety, with depression, is just breathe. Taking that time to just breathe, reset yourself, reset your body, and reevaluate. So that is my little 2 cents of things that you could do to cope with it. Other than that, I know I had a family member ask me to dive in a little bit more about how to specifically find a hobby. And I'm going to list a few examples. I mean, if you don't really have something that you enjoy to do, I mean, I recommend, taking a local art class, going to a spoken word poetry place. They typically have them in like coffee shops or bars. It just kind of depends where you live. Just kind of looking it up online, doing your research on that, on where they would have them in your community. Taking a dance class, a writing class, a tumbling class, boxing, and just really looking up your local community activities, different things that you can try. And even if it's just one day, trying each one and seeing what works for you, what's something that you're like taking interest in. You're like, hey, I actually like this. Like, let me try it again, and then keep going, keep at it. Everybody starts somewhere, even if you're new to the game. And I talked about this in the first podcast. Even if you're older, even if now you have kids, now you already have certain things established, you feel like you can't go back, you can. And that's what I was trying to dive into last time, is you could always keep going and start over, or also just completely start something new, something that you've never done before. Take that leap, take that chance of, hey, I've never done this, but I want to give it a try and see if it does. And if it does, stick to it, learn more about it, keep at it, keep going, and you'll get there. And that's how you could find a hobby or some sort of therapeutic thing that you could do for yourself. I know even like riding a horse, or they do classes, therapeutic classes with animals too. Looking that up as well in your community. So those are the things that I recommend that you could look into. To close out, I just wanted to quickly summarize the things that I talked about, which was: one, how to specifically deal with a bully, how to stand up for yourself. Another is finding your local support, how to report it, how to go up the chain of command. And then the other things I talked about was how to deal with the aftermath of that, of having anxiety and depression, because of it. And the very last thing I talked about was how to specifically find hobbies, where to look to find something for you. Um, so with that, I want to close out. I'm going to typically be doing this if I feel the part one of a topic I didn't fully extend on, I'll do a part two. If I don't, it'll just be one. But next podcast, I'm going to be doing a completely different topic. Um, so tune in for that. And I'm also going to be doing one more for this week. Well, two more, a new topic, and also reciting one of my poems. Other than that, that is it. And I just want to remind you, if you do need further help than everything I've listed, if you do feel suicidal or depressed, majorly depressed in any way, please don't be afraid to call the Suicide and Crisis not Lifeline, which is 988, or text 988 if you truly feel you need further help than that. That is all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed listening in and tune in for next time. Thank you.